On the map, Russia and the United States appear to be separated by a vast ocean. But if you zoom in on the northern Pacific, you'll see that at their closest point, the Bering Strait, the distance between the two countries is about 4 kilometers, from Russia's big Diomede Island to America's little Diomede Island. Even their mainlands are surprisingly close, just about 82 kilometers. In 1867, one of the most controversial and surprising land deals in history took place. The Russian Empire agreed to sell all of Alaska, a territory covering over 586,000 square miles, to the United States for just $7.2 million, which breaks down to roughly 2 cents per acre. To many Americans at the time, this was nothing short of folly. Newspapers mocked the decision, branding it Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox, after Secretary of State William H. Seward, who had championed the deal. To critics, it seemed absurd to spend millions on a remote, icy wilderness far from the centers of American life, with no obvious economic benefit. Yet beneath the surface of what looked like an illogical transaction lay a web of political maneuvering, economic necessity, and strategic foresight. For Russia, the sale was a way to offload a costly and vulnerable possession, while avoiding the risk of losing it to Britain in a future conflict. For the United States, it was a bold gamble, an investment in untapped resources, a foothold in the Pacific, and a step toward greater influence in the Arctic and Asia. The Alaska Purchase not only redrew the map of North America, but also marked a turning point in geopolitical history, a reminder that decisions once mocked in the present can prove to be some of the most strategic moves in the long run. Join us as we uncover the hidden motives, the high-stakes diplomacy, and the far-reaching consequences of this remarkable deal. Historical context. By the mid-19th century, Russia's control over Alaska had shifted from being a source of profit to a burdensome liability. The defeat in the Crimean War had left the empire in serious financial trouble, making it increasingly difficult to justify the expense of maintaining such a distant territory. The once lucrative fur trade, particularly sea otter pelts, had collapsed due to overhunting, stripping Alaska of its primary economic value. Strategically, the region was nearly impossible to defend, especially against Great Britain, whose strong naval presence in the Pacific posed a constant threat from nearby Canada. Russian leaders feared that in the event of another conflict, Alaska could be seized without compensation. With imperial priorities shifting toward Europe, the Caucasus, and Asia, Alaska no longer fit into Russia's long-term plans. Selling the territory to the United States, a friendly power and a rival of Britain, not only brought in much-needed funds but also prevented the land from falling into British hands. Ultimately, it was a calculated decision based on economic hardship, strategic vulnerability, and the pragmatic belief that it was better to use it or lose it. If you think Russia made the right choice, comment 1. If you think they should have kept Alaska, comment 2. The reasons America decided to buy Alaska? For the United States, the decision to purchase Alaska in 1867 was shaped by a mix of strategic vision, economic ambition, and geopolitical opportunity. At the time, Secretary of State William H. Seward saw Alaska as far more than a frozen wilderness. He viewed it as a gateway to the Pacific and a potential stepping stone for expanding American influence into Asia and the Arctic. Economically, Seward and his allies recognized Alaska's untapped potential. While its wealth in gold, oil, and other minerals had yet to be discovered, its abundant fisheries, rich timberlands, and fur resources promised long-term value. Owning such a resource-rich territory also meant securing it before rival powers could exploit it. Strategically, Alaska's position on the northwest edge of North America provided a crucial defensive outpost, guarding the continent's northern approaches and offering a vantage point over both the Pacific and the Arctic, an advantage that would prove invaluable in later global conflicts. The purchase also carried significant diplomatic weight. By buying Alaska from Russia, the United States strengthened relations with a friendly nation, while subtly undercutting British influence in the Pacific Northwest, particularly given Britain's stronghold in nearby Canada. It was a quiet but effective move in the ongoing chess game of 19th century geopolitics. Although critics mocked the acquisition as Seward's Folly, seeing it as a waste of money on a remote, icy expanse, Seward and his supporters believed it was a forward-looking investment, a belief that history would later prove correct. Purchase process. The process of the Alaska Purchase unfolded quickly but was the product of months of quiet diplomacy. In early 1867, Russian officials, led by Minister to the United States Eduard de Stockel, approached Secretary of State William H. Seward with the proposal to sell Alaska. Negotiations began in earnest in late March, and in the early hours of the 30th of March, 1867, the two sides signed the Treaty of Cession in Washington, D.C., agreeing on a price of $7.2 million, about 2 cents per acre. The terms stipulated that the United States would acquire all of Russia's rights to the territory, including land, resources, and existing settlements. The treaty was submitted to the U.S. Senate, where it faced skepticism and criticism, particularly from those who saw the land as barren and unprofitable. Nevertheless, on the 9th of April, 1867, the Senate approved the treaty by a vote of 37-2. Over the following months, arrangements were made for the official transfer. On the 18th of October, 1867, in a formal ceremony in Sitka, Russian troops lowered the imperial flag, while U.S. soldiers raised the stars and stripes, marking the official handover of Alaska to the United States. This day, now celebrated in Alaska as Alaska Day. Consequences and historical significance. The Alaska Purchase, initially dismissed by many Americans as a wasteful gamble, turned out to be one of the most advantageous territorial acquisitions in U.S. history. In the short term, public opinion was divided. Critics derided the deal as Seward's folly or Seward's icebox, while supporters praised its strategic foresight. Over time, Alaska revealed itself to be a land of immense economic value, rich in gold, oil, natural gas, timber, and fisheries. The Klondike Gold Rush of the late 1892, followed by the discovery of vast petroleum reserves in the 20th century, transformed Alaska into a major contributor to the American economy. Strategically, Alaska's location proved invaluable. It became the United States' northernmost defensive outpost, guarding against potential threats from both the Pacific and the Arctic. During World War II, Alaska served as a critical base for the Aleutian Islands campaign and as a staging area for the Lend-Lease program with the Soviet Union. In the Cold War, its proximity to the Soviet Union made it a key site for military bases, radar installations, and early warning systems. Beyond economics and defense, the purchase reshaped North America's geopolitical landscape. It strengthened U.S. presence in the Pacific, curtailed British influence, and reinforced America's image as an emerging global power. What was once mocked as a foolish investment became a textbook example of long-term strategic thinking, a reminder that short-term skepticism can give way to enduring historical significance. From the moment the treaty was signed in 1867, the Alaska Purchase sparked debate, ridicule, and skepticism. Critics saw it as an extravagant waste of $7.2 million on a remote expanse of ice and snow, far removed from America's bustling centers of commerce and politics. Yet, as the decades passed, the land revealed treasures that far exceeded its purchase price. Gold rushes that brought waves of fortune seekers, fisheries that became vital to U.S. food supply, timber and minerals that fueled industry, and vast oil reserves that would one day power the nation. Strategically, Alaska evolved into America's northern shield, a vantage point guarding against potential threats from both the Pacific and the Arctic, and a crucial military outpost during World War II and the Cold War. Looking back, the deal was far more than a transaction between two nations. For Russia, it was a calculated move to shed a distant liability and strengthen ties with a friendly power. For the United States, it was a bold gamble rooted in vision, ambition, and the belief that a nation's future is shaped not only by the land it holds today, but by the opportunities it sees for tomorrow. What was once derided as Seward's folly is now remembered as one of the most far-sighted investments in American history. So, what do you think? Was the Alaska Purchase America's smartest bargain, or Russia's greatest blunder? Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of history's most fascinating land deals. We hope you enjoyed uncovering the hidden motives, the high-stakes diplomacy, and the lasting impact of the Alaska Purchase. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more history told in depth, and share it with someone who loves learning about the past.